We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. And tonight, we examine a controversy that has ignited fierce debate across America. For decades, Americans have been told that the battle against extremism was clear. They were told that certain organizations stood on the front lines of justice, equality, and civil rights. They were told that these groups existed to expose hatred, fight discrimination, and defend vulnerable communities. But what happens when questions emerge about the people claiming to fight hatred? What happens when accusations surface suggesting that the very institutions presenting themselves as defenders of justice may have benefited from the existence of the extremists they publicly condemned? And what happens when powerful political forces rush to defend those institutions before the public even receives answers? These are the questions at the center of a growing controversy that has drawn attention from journalists, commentators, political activists, and public figures across the nation. The controversy exploded after reports emerged regarding allegations involving the Southern Poverty Law Center, an organization long associated with monitoring extremist groups and combating racial hatred. According to claims that have circulated widely in political media, investigators are examining allegations that individuals connected to extremist organizations may have received financial support or incentives connected to activities monitored by the organization. The allegations are explosive. If true, critics argue, they would represent a stunning contradiction. How could an organization built around fighting extremism allegedly maintain relationships with the very extremists it publicly denounced? How could an institution that built its reputation on exposing hate become entangled in accusations involving groups it claimed to oppose? These questions have fueled outrage among critics. The debate has also revived old arguments about which political parties deserve credit or blame for historical injustices. Supporters of different political movements continue to battle over interpretations of American history. Each side points to different facts. Each side claims the moral high ground. Each side accuses the other of rewriting the past. The controversy intensified further when some media organizations portrayed the investigation itself as politically motivated. Critics immediately pushed back. They argued that institutions facing serious allegations should not be treated as victims before facts are fully examined. They questioned why certain media outlets appeared more interested in defending organizations than investigating the claims being made. This pattern, critics say, has become increasingly common in modern America. When powerful organizations face scrutiny, attention often shifts away from the allegations and toward the investigators. The accused become victims. The investigators become villains. The questions disappear. The outrage changes direction, and the public is left confused. At the same time, another battle has been unfolding far from Washington. In Tennessee, political tensions have intensified around congressional representation, race, and redistricting. The debate centers on a fundamental question: should electoral districts be drawn primarily with racial considerations in mind, or should representation be determined without regard to race? Supporters of race-conscious districting argue that minority communities require political representation that reflects their experiences. Opponents argue that emphasizing race risks perpetuating division and undermining equal treatment under the law. The disagreement is fierce, and emotions run high. Into this conflict stepped Charlotte Bergman, a Republican candidate who has spent years campaigning throughout Memphis and Shelby County. Her story became part of the broader national conversation because it challenged assumptions that many political activists rely upon. As a Black conservative woman seeking office in a heavily debated district, her candidacy complicated narratives that often reduce political disagreements to racial categories. Her message focused on merit, faith, public safety, economic opportunity, and community empowerment. Whether voters agree with her or not, her presence raised questions that political commentators could not easily answer. If representation is about race alone, what happens when candidates do not fit expected political identities? If diversity matters, does ideological diversity matter too? These questions remain unresolved. They expose tensions that continue to shape American politics. In Memphis, concerns about violent crime have dominated local conversations. Residents have described fears about gang activity, theft, carjackings, and public safety. Business owners have worried about keeping their doors open. Parents have worried about their children. Grandparents have worried about their communities. These fears are not theoretical. They are real, and they affect daily life. The deployment of National Guard resources and Increased law enforcement efforts sparked intense political disagreement. Supporters argued that stronger security measures helped restore order. Critics argued that such actions risked creating fear and mistrust. The debate reflected a broader national divide. How should America balance security and liberty? How should communities address crime while maintaining trust? How should leaders respond when citizens no longer feel safe? These questions do not have simple answers. Yet politicians continue offering simple slogans. And simple slogans rarely solve complicated problems. This brings us to Donald Trump. Throughout his political career, Trump has presented himself as an outsider fighting a corrupt establishment. Yet critics point out a contradiction. While attacking elites, Trump has often surrounded himself with wealthy insiders. While promising transparency, his administration faced numerous controversies and investigations. While claiming to unite forgotten Americans, his rhetoric frequently intensified national divisions. His supporters view him as a fighter. His critics view him as a symptom of the same political culture he claims to oppose. The truth may be more complicated than either side wishes to admit. Because America's problems did not begin with Trump, and they will not end with Trump. The forces driving division, distrust, and political conflict existed long before his rise to power. The real question is whether Americans are willing to confront those forces honestly. Not as Republicans, not as Democrats, not as conservatives, not as liberals, but as citizens. Because when institutions become more important than truth, democracy suffers. When narratives become more important than facts, accountability disappears. When fear becomes more important than unity, everyone loses. Anonymous believes that every claim should be investigated. Every institution should be questioned. Every politician should face scrutiny. Every media organization should be challenged. And every citizen should demand evidence before accepting any narrative. That is how free societies survive. That is how corruption is exposed. That is how truth emerges from chaos. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.